Greetings, everyone. Happy Black Maternal Health Week. On behalf of BMMA, welcome and thank you for joining us for today's live conversation, Mama's Milk, Nourishing Families Through Community Milk Sharing. I'm Milan Spencer, the Associate Director of Workforce Development and Partnerships with BMMA, and I am joined here by my lovely colleague, Dr. Ayana Robinson, the Director of Research and Evaluation. We are both fierce advocates of breast chest feeding and lactation justice. Way back when I became a certified lactation education counselor after all the issues that I had getting adequate support for breastfeeding my first child. And then after that, I fought hard to have two successful breastfeeding journeys. So I know how difficult it is to sustain breastfeeding, especially as a Black mama.
And I got my start in public health as a breastfeeding research and creating health education initiatives around breastfeeding as well. I'm also a former previous breastfeeding mama and founder of Black Girls Breastfeeding Club and Birthwork. And today we are so excited to have Jazmin Williams with us for this impactful conversation. Jazmin Williams is the founding director of BLKBRY and BLKBRY Community. Her experiences with giving birth are like many Black birthing people. She was neglected, ignored, and disbelieved by medical providers based on her race. Learning about the shared experiences of many other Black birthing people, she has made it her mission to fight for equity, ensure that the reproductive rights of Black people are upheld, and contribute to the fight for reproductive justice. So welcome, Jazmin. So happy to have you here with us.
Hi, thank you so much. Sorry, it was taking me a moment there to come off mute, but so excited to be here with y'all. And I don't know what to say. Like, I have just been on a high since y'all reached out, and so excited to talk about this because it's something that is near and dear to my heart, also just based on my own experiences and the families that I just love and support. So excited to be here with y'all.
Yes. So let's jump right in. Tell us a bit, Jazmin, about BLKBRY, why this organization was founded, and what services you all provide.
Yeah, and so BLKBRY actually started as a blog. Not many people know about this.
Wow.
They know of it started as a doula practice, but really, after my first pregnancy, having that traumatic birth experience, needing to make sure that others knew of what resources were available to them in their communities, knowing about what local politics and policies and stuff affect them as well. It was a big thing to me to make sure that there was an outlet for folks. And so as a new parent, somebody who was also going through a DV situation, I didn't know how much I could do at that time. So I started blogging, letting folks know about what was available. When I had my second baby in another traumatic experience, 10 years later, thinking I'm in a more progressive area, but still not being seen, not being heard, was actually turned away from the hospital because they said there wasn't a bed available for me when they had also confirmed I was in active labor, to almost losing my baby during birth. And then her being born with blood incompatibility jaundice, and then being told that my milk wasn't going to be enough for me. And then also being made to seem like my colostrum wasn't milk. And so from there, I had people who stepped in, provided me with doula support. I learned about it, changed my blog to being direct service, getting into doula work, but also looking at there was so much more that's needed in terms of supporting Black birthing people. And for me, it was like, okay, what do we need to cover? There was education missing. There's wraparound resources that were missing. And to be shamed for, you know, being told my milk was not going to support my baby, I was like, okay, like, let me get trained. Let me be able to help folks because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one receiving this message as well.
Absolutely. And so what about just the general services of BLKBRY? Can you tell us more about what you all do?
Yeah, so for BLKBRY, we actually started with providing no-cost doula support to Black families across Washington State. Since then, we now have our Medicaid doula reimbursement. And so we've looked at other ways to be able to support folks. So we're going in more heavily with classes, bringing in more folks from our state and from out of state to come in and sharing knowledge, doing webinars for folks. We have our community pantry where we buy from Black-owned businesses and provide to Black families at no cost in our state as well. In addition to that, they don't have to receive a doula from us in order to qualify to get it. There's no income limit because we know that health disparities don't care about our income limit or our education level. So we want to make sure that folks have that support. We've also expanded it to where partners and kinship caregivers qualify. Because for a lot of our organizations, if you're not the birthing person, you don't qualify for that doula support. You don't qualify for those wraparound services. And we wanted to make sure that any family that comes to us knows that they can get that support if they're supporting a baby within their family. And then in addition to that, we have our community milk sharing program. And so that actually started because I had my own clients that were in need of donor milk. And at that time, we were telling them about different Facebook groups where they could connect with folks, being able to get donor milk. And through that, there were a lot of folks that were met with anti-Blackness, that were having CPS called on them, that were being ghosted by donors. Also donors that were showing up with the initial intent of, hey, I'm going to provide this to you for free. I know you need this for your baby. But then getting there and all of a sudden people want to add a price to it. Or they got a white person that messaged them. And so they decided to give their milk to the white person rather than to the Black family. So we started the community milk sharing program that way. Black folks could stay anonymous and private. So they don't have to worry about folks calling CPS or any other folks on them. But we're also more of a pass-through service. So we're really just that middle person to make sure there's that confidentiality in place, but that they have the milk that they need for their little ones.
Got it. And thank you for sharing your story. Always appreciate hearing how people were brought into the work. And sorry about your experiences, but inspiring to just hear how you use that to make sure that your community could have more positive birthing experiences. So thank you. And you brought us to our next question, which is on community milk sharing. Of course, that's what we're here to talk about. So tell us, like, to start, what exactly, like, what is community milk sharing? Why is it so important to Black babies, Black communities? And can you tell us a little bit more about how it works through your program at BLKBRY?
Yeah, so community milk sharing, it's something we have done for generations, being able to share milk, folks who have oversupply, folks who have lost their little one but are still pumping and starting to decrease their milk supply. So we get folks that donate due to all different types of situations. We actually had 2 donors that were oversuppliers and were providing us like 11 to 13 gallons of milk a couple times a month. And it was so much. We
Wow.
actually had to provide them with some support because we were just like, yeah, that's quite a lot out there. But it was
Yes.
beautiful to have these 2 deep freezers filled with milk, being able to provide them to families. But when you think about it, I know we talked about during slavery how Black folks, we were used as wet nurses. I see community milk sharing as our option. It's our decision. It's a way for us to have autonomy about how our body is being used, and we get to choose to share our milk. We get to use to share it to help other Black babies thrive. Um, a lot of folks don't realize too that these milk banks, it costs money to
Yep.
get this donor milk. They charge your insurance and they charge it by the ounce. And you think about how much milk a little one needs. You know, at birth, their tummy is the size of a marble, so it's not that much. But as baby gets bigger, and for different situations, if baby is in the NICU, if going to a daycare facility or being with a loved one who's watching them during the day, and they're going to need that milk during the day. And so that's also a big thing of like, how do we provide that? How do we supply that? And we decided to set our system up to be similar to milk banks. So we do still have folks fill out a questionnaire. We want to make sure that donors are being very much aware of the fact that you are donating your milk, You need to be open if you have a sexually transmitted disease, because we're not just going to give our families anything. We want to make sure as well that people, especially because not all Black folks are Christian, we do have Black folks that are Muslim, folks that do not drink alcohol. And so we do have those things in there as well. We want to know about medications too, because we care. There are a lot of Black folks that are very much like, no, I don't want my baby having milk that has certain medications in it. So we do keep track of all of that. We do have our screening. Our staff, we are trained as lactation specialists as well. So we have an IBCLC on staff. I have had way too many hours in training in lactation. I've also done an internship with an IBCLC. Like, we have really done the work to make sure we're not just folks that are like, yeah, just drop off your milk to us, but we understand. We know the composition of milk. We're trained within it. We're able to also do lactation consults as well for folks that are using donor milk. And that just may need to be on it temporarily while they're building up their own supply too. And so it's something that we really have incorporated within the full care of how we provide support to folks. But it's been really simple. We have folks fill out the questionnaire, we review it, we will approve folks. We have these beautiful coolers that we fill up with milk as much as folks need. We provide that to them and make sure that they have the milk for as long as they need to support their little one. Well, as long as we have it in stock, I'll say, because we do get folks that need it a lot more, a lot quicker. We do prioritize those um, that are really in need of it, that have little ones that are NICU or preemies. And it's also a way too to kind of keep formula out of the picture as well. We know that these formula brands constantly say, oh yeah, it's just like milk. There's nothing like human milk, nothing like it. And so it's our way to make sure our babies are thriving in our community.
Thank you for that, Jasmine. And you and I talked about our babies having jaundice. That is, it's really prevalent for Black babies to have jaundice. And I'm gonna start calling that the jaundice to formula pipeline, because the way that we are done when our babies have jaundice and what we are told about our milk not being enough, and they need, formula to be able to put on weight to start to clear, the jaundice out of their system. Like, I feel like it's a whole system that's already set up against us. But you mentioned something earlier, and I do want to go back to that because it's important. I want to make sure that our audience understands that during slavery in the United States, enslaved Black women were often forced to nurse the children of white enslavers, and that prioritized their care over the care of their own children. And this practice is known as wet nursing. Black women were not allowed to nurture their children, were not allowed to parent their children. Their milk was not for their own children. So we must always be mindful and consider the inherent trauma and pain that caused. And this trauma still contributes to the disparities that we see in Black breastfeeding rates to this day. So we have a complex history in this country of Black breastfeeding, and I wanted to make that clear. So Jasmine, can you talk a little bit about how community milk sharing helps us reclaim and restore and heal that legacy of lactation in our communities?
It's definitely as well. Like, milk sharing comes with questions. And I think so many of us are on these information islands that it is really helpful to actually be in space where you're getting your milk from somebody who looks like you, who understands the history, who knows what you may be going through in terms of what your provider may or may not have said to you, to encourage you to provide. So have educational moments, talking with folks about our history, our legacy within nursing, because really, when we talk about that wet nursing, yeah, we were enslaved people, but our babies were still thriving. That's why they had us nursing their babies. Our milk is powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing to remember in all of it. There's so much to be said about that time, but at that time, we were still strong. We are still strong today. Our babies still thrive off our milk. And so that's always the educational piece that I like to go into it. Um, and then I also tell folks too, like for a lot of folks that are looking to receive donor milk, I ask them, would you like to do a lactation consult? Let's talk about things. Let's also process your experience, because there was an experience that came about for needing that donor milk. And a lot of folks aren't really in that space to have that time to process it. But I like to let folks know, like, no, there is a whole history behind this. There is a whole meaning behind it. I'm trying to think of, there are two books that I love to use, and they actually are based around Black lactation. And cannot remember the name. I'm not at my office right now, but they are beautiful books, and they're stories by other Black birthing people in regards to their lactation journey, and letting folks know, like, we do this. We can nurse our babies. We are able to latch. I always let folks know as well that I hate when people say, like, oh yeah, breast chest feeding is natural. And I tell them, like, actually it's a skill. The wanting to nourish your baby with your body, with your milk, that comes naturally. But it is a skill. Anything baby's just gonna come out. No, same as when folks say golden hour. I say bonding hour. Take that time, bond with your baby, learn your cues, learn each other's bodies, because that helps with the lactation journey.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. So I can imagine there are a lot of questions, Jazmin, and misconceptions. Are there misconceptions about community human milk sharing that we should clear up? And for example, is it safe? What are the safety measures when sharing receiving milk?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of misconceptions. A lot of folks just automatically assume that you're just getting anybody's milk. You don't know what somebody is doing. You don't know what medications they're taking. Milk banks, they do the same thing. They have folks fill out a questionnaire. They will actually have folks do a blood test as well, and they pasteurize the milk. For us, we do have the liability forms because we're not a clinic. We're just a reproductive justice organization providing that support, being that middle person. We support in the community milk sharing. So we still have folks fill out that questionnaire. We do approve them. We actually have midwives and OBs and pediatricians that if anything comes up on that questionnaire and we have a question about it, we're able to ask them. So we can make sure that the milk that they're getting is safe. It's not just, oh, we took it in, here you go. Um, it's really us wanting to make sure that we are doing our due diligence, that our families are getting, and also people don't think about how their diet affects their milk. Like, we're lactation specialists, so we think about that. But it is safe. It's something that has been going on, I can't even say, like, beyond generations. It's something that our community has been doing in terms of milk sharing, being able to help nourish each other's babies with our bodies, being able to share milk between lactating parent to lactating parent. But it is safe to do. And I think when the formula shortage hit, a lot of people started doing more of their education around community milk sharing, the importance of it, safety around it. And it's why we saw like more of these milk sharing Facebook groups coming about, because folks needed it. And it's something I tell folks, like, nothing I do is new. Even milk sharing, even this program, it's not new. It's just a modern take on something that we have always done. And so I tell folks, like, there are ways to do it. And one of the things that we have been wanting to support with, we document everything that we do, even in terms of our milk sharing program, all the forms that we use. So if anybody in another area wants to create this type of program for their community, we can help them and support them in doing that, so they can make sure the Black families in their communities get supported and served too.
Thank you. And honestly, when I was nursing my children, I was still looking up information about things I ate and medications that I took just to ensure that, it was still okay for me to feed them. And so, in that same way, it doesn't go away just because you are taking in human milk from someone else. Like you still have those same concerns. But thank you so much for, letting us know that this is completely safe. And you all do take safety measures to ensure the safety of the babies that are receiving the milk. So can you share, do you have a success story from your community milk sharing program that resonates with you, or an impactful story or a family that you can remember and you're just like, this is exactly why we do this?
Yes, I actually have two. Um, so the first one being a military family, a family from the South coming up from Alabama to JBLM, and it was something to where they had been receiving donor milk from somebody back in their home state. They had somebody Black that was supporting them, helping them through it, and then came here to Washington and completely new area, no family support, didn't know anybody, no resources, and we're looking for donor milk. And when I finally met up with her to provide her the donor milk, she told me just about how she went to the other Facebook groups, that folks ghosted her, that she drove out of her way to go meet up with other people, and was just like, you don't know how much this helps. She didn't even realize how much I had put in the cooler. I filled it up because when I found out, like, oh, you're driving from where? Like, okay, like, let me make sure you have enough so you don't need to worry. And it gave her 2 weeks worth and was like, yeah, you contact me when you're at the last week and we'll make sure you have more. So that way you're not worrying about running out. And just to see the look on her face of like, I found community out here. And that's
Yeah.
what it really resonates to me and means for me, because we want folks to know we see you, we support you, we love you. We're gonna make sure you and your baby, your family have what y'all need to thrive.
Yeah.
The other family that really sparked us making a formal community milk sharing program was because one of my doula clients. This is when I was still attending births. I was going in postpartum. Doula client had multiples, and milk supply just needed to be increased, needed a bit support, but also trying to figure out, now how do I nurse these two babies? They're both hungry at the same time.
Yeah.
They don't like the positions I put them in. They don't want to be in the tandem position. So I got to nurse one at a time. Um, and so I was like, okay, well, let's get you some donor milk. And so I was able to get a little bit. And this is when we were really just first starting. It was very informal. I was working with another lactation specialist in the community that connected me with someone, but she went off, my client went off on her own to go try to get donor milk, went through a Facebook group and had CPS called on her because the
Wow.
white family said, oh, I don't think she can emotionally support her babies. She's not feeding her babies. It was just like, she's nursing. These are two babies, new mama, never had a birth before, and now having twins. And having babies doesn't come with a manual. We
No.
can do childbirth ed, prenatal lactation education all we want to, but until we're in that moment, we fully don't know. And so it really hurt my heart. Just like,
That's
this is a
devastating.
Facebook
Yeah.
group with other mamas all needing donor milk. And then she's going to call CPS on you. Showed me the message thread and everything. And it just hurt my heart. And so that
Mm.
just told me, like, okay, we need to do something about this. It needs to be something formal. It needs to be something bigger. I started researching the actual bigger milk banks and what they were doing. I researched our state laws because there are each state is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we
Yeah.
first started, we were calling ourselves a milk bank and learned, like, oh, there are regulations in our state for a milk bank, but we can do community milk sharing. And so we
Mhm.
have to be mindful of the title that we gave our milk program. And from there, we've been able to do it. We've been able to grow. We're actually in our city's proclamation for And
Yes.
they call it their breastfeeding week, but we're in the city's proclamation for it because of our community milk sharing program and the lactation support that we provide to Black families in our area. But it's been one of those things of like, one, if you're gonna start this, definitely do your research. But it was definitely needed. And
Mhm.
it was something that I was finding was still missing. And just like in how I came up with the name for BlackBerry, took out letters in the name to signify what's missing in Black infant and maternal health care and what we're doing to fill in the gaps. And that was one of the gaps that need to be filled.
Absolutely. Thank you. You mentioned if you're going to start something like this, make sure you do your research. So that is one of the questions that I am going to ask next because we're nearing the end of our time. So Jazmin, first question, what can we do to continue to build this practice within our communities? And then as a follow-up, for those that want to replicate a program like this in their area or community, what steps can they take? Like, are there resources that BlackBerry has and can share?
Yes. So like I said, we have documented every step of the way. We've documented our creation of our LLC, our creation of our nonprofit, and our programs because we want to make sure we know BlackBerry isn't going to be a fit for everybody. We don't serve the entire country as well, but we want to make sure that if folks want to create their own programs, that we can help and support them in doing that. So we have the forms, we have a Google Drive that is like filled with information. So I tell folks, hey, if you want to know how to make your own, reach out. We want you to have your own. We want you to know like what you need to research for your state so you can create your own program. There are smaller grants out there. There are grants that will help you just to get the equipment you need. So grants that will help you to buy your deep freezer. For me,
Wow.
I was able to get in with this other grant and it was a matching grant. And I just told them like, yep, all I need is a deep freezer and was able to use that grant and get the second deep freezer that we needed because we were getting so much milk. Our first deep freezer, we had to tell folks like, I'm sorry, we can't take anymore. We only had one deep freezer. So we got another grant. We were able to get another deep freezer and that way we're able to hold them in there. We've also been doing research around freeze drying milk, which if y'all are okay, I'd love to announce this here publicly, but we
Yes,
have been working with a
please.
company out of state. Okay. We've been working with the company out of state and building a partnership because they have an FDA approved lab where they can freeze dry donor milk. And so with
Wow.
their lab, it will help increase the the shelf life of donor milk from 1 year to 3 years. And
Wow.
because it will be powdered, it will be in a packet, it makes it easier for us to ship it to folks across our state, to ship it to the other organizations that we support and work with around the country that want to provide donor milk to their families. Um, and I'm just like, I'm
Congratulations.
so excited for
Yes.
it, but it's something that we have been in talks with and building out this partnership for the past few months. We're hoping to launch it later this year as we work out like the process because donors will be able to send their milk directly to the facility. They will
Mm.
do all the work around it and send it to us. So it helps us, it's a quicker turnaround for us to be able to get this donor milk out to families too. So it's so incredible just as you're doing your research and learning more. Um, and I love that we are working with folks across the country. I feel like this cross-country solidarity needs to happen. Too many of us are focusing on just certain areas and only connecting with people in those areas and not looking at the skills that are all across our country. And this, like, we got us together for one. And the fact of being able to do this resource sharing, having this facility that can do the milk for us, but being able to send it out to other Black orgs to be able to support their families. And
Yes.
this is a small facility. So our thing has been like, hey, how can we partner with folks to make sure y'all are getting this donor milk too? And so it's just gonna grow from here.
It
But as I
is.
said, to us at BlackBerry, we are like, reach out. We want to help y'all build. We want to see other communities across our country thrive. We don't charge for this stuff. Like we want to make sure that our families are thriving and have what they need. So You can follow us on Instagram. You can hit me. I don't DM me though on Instagram. I will say I'm not the best on answering messages on there, but if you go on there through the website and you send us a contact email, email is the best way to get a hold of me. Our team is absolutely incredible. And we are even looking to put together different workshops to make it easier for folks to gather and connect and being able to talk about how we build out these structures and work better together too. So I
That's
hope that answered. Sorry,
beautiful.
I can just
It
talk.
does.
So
Yeah. No, we are so excited. We are so
Yes.
excited. Congratulations, all the success to BlackBerry. And we're so very proud of the work that you're doing. And BlackBerry is a true example of collective action, which is a part of our Black Maternal Health Week theme. So thank you for sharing all of that, Jazmin. Unfortunately, that's all we have time today, everyone. I want to thank our lovely guest, Jazmin Williams, for joining us and highlighting such an
Thanks.
important, necessary, and impactful program. We hope today's conversation sparked new ideas for those committed to increasing access to human milk for Black babies and families. Again, I just want to plug this. To learn more about BlackBerry, visit www.blkbry.com. To engage with us for the remainder of Black Maternal Health Week, please visit blkmaternalhealthweek.com. We do have a webinar coming up tomorrow for the final day of Black Maternal Health Week titled Thriving in Black Maternal Health Through Policy and Advocacy. That will be at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. So definitely register and join us virtually. And lastly, I'd like to thank our Changemaker sponsors for our week, California Healthcare Foundation and Merck for Mothers. Take care, everyone, and happy Black Maternal Health Week.